I call this meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Let's stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to call for possible action for a flexible agenda. I need a motion from the floor.
Make the motion.
Thank you, Trustee Burns. Thank you, Trustee Kangas, for the second. I'd like to make a statement. Vote. Okay. Is there any public comment?
We're going to back up in Trustee Burns, if you'll state the motion and the motion for a flexible agenda, and then we'll second the public. Okay. For the record, to make the motion that we accept a flexible agenda. I second that motion.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on the flexible agenda? If there's no public comment, I'd like to bring this to a vote. I'd like everyone to both say aye and raise your hand if you're in favor. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Passes by unanimous motion. Thank you. I would like to welcome the staff and members of the public here this evening, as well as those of you on Zoom. I would like to apologize for some things that happened at the last meeting and offer some guidelines to make the meeting flow better. As board president who is responsible for running these meetings, I would like to make sure that the public is aware. The public comment notice states that no person shall orally initiate charges or complaints against individual employees of the district at a public board meeting. I would like to apologize for not stopping a personal attack that occurred against a member of our staff. It is my intent as president to do my best to make sure that never happens again. At the last meeting, both members of the public as well as members of the board spoke out of turn without waiting to be called on by the president. I'm letting you all know that no one will speak until called on, or you will be out of order and immediately stopped. I'm also requesting that both members of the public here and on Zoom refrain from personal attacks. It is not helpful to the business of the board or the school district. Also, we are in a small room and side conversations are disruptive and interfere with the meeting. I'm sure that we all agree that we would like this meeting to be much shorter and more productive. Thank you for your time. I would like the approval of consent items for possible action, and I need a motion.
I make a motion to approve our consent items.
Thank you.
I second.
Thank you, Trustee Gilkerson and Trustee Engelkirk. Is there any public comment on the consent items? If there's no public comment, are there any members of the board who would like to speak on the consent items? Okay, then I'd like to bring it to a vote. I would like everyone all in favor to please say aye and raise your hand. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous vote. Thank you. Next is the NASB report. Trustee Dickerson.
So just real quick on President Jansen on introduction and special recognition, just to note it on the agenda. I was prepared tonight to recognize 4 teachers. When we moved the meeting, I ended up down to 1. So I'm going to move it to April. They're all confirmed that they can come in April. So I'll do our recognition in April. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Lewis.
Okay. So I went to the NASB at the legislature on the 11th and got a huge insight into how change comes to schools through the legislative process. I was able to ask some questions of one of the speakers about funding and what constituted at-risk students. I explained that there are students that are incarcerated that are absolutely at risk and are viable, and maybe we could look at how we fund them. And they thought that was interesting, and we're going to look into that. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Dickerson. Next are the board reports. Each board member is going to report what they've been doing around the district. Trustee Kangas, would you like to start?
Sure. I attended the FLSC preview at Scarcelli, and I attempted to attend the one at Pawalu, but I showed up a little late. It was a very big meeting.
Those that are wondering, FLSE is Family Life Sex Ed.
Yes,
We're guilty of acronyms.
that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kangas. Trustee Gilkerson?
Thank you, President Jensen. I attended in February something called the TLC. It's Teachers and Leader Conference. And it's something that you're nominated and approved for, elected, and it's a state-run committee. And it stands for Teachers and Leaders Committee. Sorry, not conference. Attended Zoom. I'm not sure you guys are familiar with what that is, but the Teachers and Leader Council, I'm corrected a third time, makes recommendations to the state board relating to statewide performance evaluation systems that ensures that teachers, administrators, counselors, librarians, and other licensed educational personnel employed by school districts are evaluated using multiple, fair, timely, rigorous, and valid methods, including evaluations based on student achievement data. They are also given meaningful opportunity to improve their effectiveness and that they are provided the means to share effective educational methods with their peers. So one of the things that we discussed there's many, but one of the things that I thought that was interesting was the student learning goals. In the past, it was at 15%, and the legislature is trying to change it to 50%, which is unreasonable. So they will they'll make a position statement on that as well. So the Teachers and Leaders Council it's actually a tool of how teachers are evaluated by their administrators, and the administrators are evaluated by the superintendent and so forth. Okay, so that's one meeting I attended. We had an employee meeting, but it was canceled because we've had a lot of things canceled last month because of the weather, including schools. In March, on the 1st, there was a chamber meeting and I attended by Zoom. One of the things you might be interested in if you ever work with the chamber is Pamela Litka is their new assistant to Alicia Main. She was hired. Also, we get reports from all the different towns, and one of the towns reported that I believe it's going to be in Westwood, so it'll be Minden. They're going to build a new splash pad. Also, they talk about building new homes and apartments and things like that. So there's a lot of people that attend this chamber meeting, and it's pretty informational. On the 6th of March, I did an instructional walk and went up to Zephyr Cove in Whittle, and yeah, it was good. It was very good. One of the things that we were talking to Doug when we came in is I could not believe the snow at the top of Kingsbury. Holy cow. All we did was laugh, which is not funny. But on the 7th, there was a Park and Rec meeting, and that was canceled. On the 11th, that Saturday, there was the NASB training orientation. And I have to tell you, in the 6 years that I've been on the board, it was one of the best ones I've ever attended. It was really informational. And I know I let you know that the slides would be online for you guys that weren't able to make it. Some of the things we went over was the power of people. It was a really good presentation of boards being able to work together and building relationships. Another one was about, let's see, SB 288, and that's about bargaining. And boy, I'd never heard all these things before. It was really informational, but it talked about collective bargaining, the difference between bargaining units, employee organizations, and labor organizations, how you have to have 50 plus 1% to be an organization, to be a bargaining unit, sorry. And it's up to the board to decide whether they want to accept that or not. Also, they outline what you can and can't do when you're bargaining, the different stipulations. They talked about mediation, arbitration, and the difference between the two. We did really neat table exercise that day to help us understand the difference between mediation, arbitration, and that was really pretty interesting. So that's some of the things that we did for that. And I think that was it. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Gilkerson. Trustee Dickerson.
So I attended some expulsions, not fun, but necessary. Went to Caden Sellers' graduation out at Jacobson. It was wonderful. What a beautiful young woman she is. Also did a tour of all the CTE courses with Mr. Rex. That was very eye-opening, and it's my heart. So it was wonderful to see what is offered in the CTE courses, occupational type things. I'd love to see that expanded. So that was really neat to be able to talk about that and some options as well. Thank you.
Trustee Burns.
Okay. The school board activities that I was involved in was from February 14th through till today. Last month, I was able to visit with Mr. Rex in the high school. We visited the auto shop and the welding shop. And I'll tell you, I was impressed with the students and I was impressed with the teacher. That's student reflects the teacher, and it was very good. I did attend, and I'm going to say too many expulsions, and we'll probably be talking about that. I also visited Aspire and Alternate Ed and a few of the teachers. I'll tell you, this is a great program. Alternate Ed and Aspire in general out there is a fantastic program. I also attended my my second graduation at the Jacobson High School. On March 10th, I spent the day with the legislatures through NASB. And then finally, I spent 4 2-hour Zoom sessions with Edunomics Laboratories, Georgetown University. And I have to say, this is a very detailed informational class about finances and budgets for schools and guidance for contract negotiations. I'm not easily impressed. I've seen a lot of this stuff, but I would highly recommend this for all the board and the upper staff members that would be involved with negotiations. Fantastic materials and a fantastic presentation. Very understandable. It was great. That's all I've got.
Thank you, trustee Burns. Trustee Engelkirk.
Yeah, I too attended the finance workshop, and I will say it was very helpful, if not overwhelming, the amount of information that I got from it. That's all I have.
Trustee Magnata.
Report.
Well, I guess it's my turn. Last month, I wasn't able to visit as many schools as I would have liked to because of the weather. But today I got to go to Jacks Valley Elementary. It was a rescheduled Epic Walk, and it was just really excellent. The kids were so engaged. The teachers were just great. And I'm glad that's my local school because I was very impressed with Jacks Valley Elementary. I did attend an expulsion hearing, but my best day of the month was March 8th. I had the privilege of introducing the book Lord of the Flies to 3 all-dead students. This will be ongoing for the rest of the semester. From there, I came to this wonderful Douglas High School for the rest of the school day and met several staff members that I had not met before in my previous visits, and also met with some others that I did know previously and had nice conversations. I also attended the NASB training at the Capitol on Friday and met some members of the assembly as well as our governor's chief of staff. It was great to see other school board members from around the state that I met at previous NASB meetings. Thank you. Trustee Engelkirk, do you have some correspondence?
Sure, As far as correspondence, I think all the board received emails from a parent and a member of our staff about an incident at the last board meeting. And I also believe everybody on board received an email about a concerned parent about a bullying situation. That's all I have.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any correspondence? Yes, Mr. Kangas.
We also received an email from Marcus Zinke pertaining to the last board meeting, and Melissa Rouse, ROUSSE, who had some concerns about the board meeting also.
Thank you.
And, oh, excuse me, one
Oh,
more,
sorry.
please. And obviously Christine Ensign, lots of good news. Yes.
Lots of great news.
Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent Lewis, would you like me to read the good news or you want to go first? Okay. I got lots.
The research, you get to report it.
I'm going to start. Mrs. Ensign's honors geometry class worked with Mr. John Enter, the head of IT for the district, using a tool called a clinometer. Did I say that right? And the knowledge that they had acquired in Mrs. Ensign's class, and they figured out how to measure the height of a light pole on the football field. 60 feet was their estimate. That information will be instrumental in the construction of a new cell tower on school grounds. A student named J.C. Reed, who goes here to Douglas High School, who has a 4.2 GPA with math as his favorite subject and Mrs. Ensign as his favorite teacher, won the Revigialo Way to Go Award. JC was also first team all region in basketball and helped special needs students during the summer. JC is eligible for the Nevada Promise Scholarship when he goes to college. Pretty cool. Mrs. Hammond's honors trig pre-cal class used a new technique that she developed for testing where students paired up to collaborate. Mrs. Hammond said the level of rigor in the students' discourse was astounding. Douglas High School's librarian Holly Coleman was appointed by Governor Lombardo to the State Council for Libraries and Literacy. That's really awesome. Also, freshman student Mary Goldwater, a student from Douglas High in the culinary department, recently took second place at the state level in the cake decorating contest in Las Vegas. She was supported in this endeavor by her wonderful culinary teacher, Mrs. Crofton. And our new and amazing marketing director, Haley Sabahar, in collaboration with Estepana Group, created a wonderful teacher recruitment video. She captured the natural beauty of the county and the quality of our awesome staff. And Superintendent Lewis said that will hopefully be ready for us next month. If you haven't seen it, it's really beautiful. So thank you. Superintendent Lewis for superintendent's report.
We are just buzzing along. Donations, no donations to report for this month, but I think some have come in and we'll have some in April. Enrollment accounts through March reporting reflect an enrollment of 5,334, which is 10 down where we were during the February. So we went from 334 to 344 back to 5334 to 5344 back to 5334. So we're staying within a range. 93 down from where we were in March of 2022. Since the February board meeting, my staff and I held communications meetings at Gardnerville and Zephyr Cove Elementary Schools and Carson Valley and Powalloo Middle Schools. This week, we are traveling out to Scarcelli, and then we will be here at Douglas High School as well. Over the past month, we've held epic instructional walks at Douglas and George Whittle High Schools, as well as Zephyr Cove Elementary School. And as I think it was President Jansen alluded to. We were out at Jacks Valley today and had a very nice visit with some wonderful classrooms and with some wonderful kids. Trustee Dickerson was with me and we got to speak to a couple of them and learn a lot about their learning. Speaker Yeager and Senate Majority Leader Canizero have summoned Nevada's 17 school district superintendents and the State Public Charter School Authority to appear this upcoming Saturday at a joint meeting of the Senate Committee on Finance and Assembly Committee on Ways and Means. Even though we have previously presented our Invest document that clearly outlines our priorities for increased funding to K-12 public education in Nevada, the legislature will give each of us 5 minutes to convey our plans to spend the additional $2 billion that is proposed in the executive budget recommended by Governor Lombardo for K-12 education. So I think I'm going to call a spade a spade. We're in the middle of a political game, and we have been summoned to answer some questions that have been provided to the legislature by the Clark County Education Association. And we will, obviously we need to appear and we will appear this Saturday and speak to what that looks like for Douglas County. And we'll see where that goes. Mental Health Series, DCSD hosted its 4th Mental Health Series event on March 7th in conjunction with parentguidance.org. The topic of this month was building your child's confidence. Our next mental health event will be on Tuesday, April 4th, and the topic is your child's anxiety. As a follow-up to my report last month, the NIAA Board of Control officially approved the football realignment. So that is now done. That will put Douglas High School in the Northern 5A Division III with Carson, Galena, Hug, Wooster, and North Valleys. They're also looking at a plan for basketball that would put Douglas in a 4A division, would take us out of the current state format that pits the North against the Bishop Gormans of the world who play a national schedule. And we're lucky if we're within 30 in the state semifinals. So I think there's some good movement on the basketball as well. Believe it or not, we're quickly approaching that time of the year. So I want to let you know that graduation ceremonies for George Whittle High School will be the evening of Tuesday, June 15th. And you don't have to write it down. We'll send this out to you as calendar invites. And we will then celebrate the graduating class of Aspire Academy High School, Douglas, Nevada Online, and Douglas High School on Friday, June 16th. We'll also have celebrations on the 16th for those that are graduating with their adult diploma and then the high set, or formerly known as the GED. So the 16th will be very busy for all of you that are able to attend going from, but we have them timed so that we can do them all on that date. And since they're here, what a lot of people don't know is behind the scenes, to plan a graduation is a monstrous event. And we have 2 of our graduation committee in the audience. I'd like them to wave, Mr. Keith Cole and Ms. Karen Lamb. And Mina, I apologize, Mina on it as well. Okay. Mina Deadman. And so there's just a lot that goes into planning a graduation and making it all happen. And they've done it for years masterfully here at Douglas High School. So I'm glad they're here and I can call them out while they're here. And then just finally, I appreciate your flexibility on the board workshop. We have scheduled that workshop for Friday, April 14th is the date. Our legal counsel, either Carolyn, Rick, or both, will provide training on ethics and open meeting law that we had discussed. And then former DCSD Superintendent John Soderman, who was recommended by NASB, has agreed to facilitate the roles and responsibilities portion of the training. I think we're looking at 8 to 11, a 3-hour workshop the morning of the 14th. So that is what I have to report.
Thank you, Superintendent Lewis. Any
Yes.
questions?
I have a question. Did you find out how much for the Saturday meeting, how much Douglas County is receiving of the funds? Or they told you that yet?
So we're still trying to clarify that, and I'll so when we got the projection, there's several districts that are in the situation. It's going to get probably more technical than you want. We're trying to get an accurate figure on special ed funding, but it looks better than if that number gets changed. They had an inaccurate number that went to the governor when they created their budget, and so they can't just correct it. They will correct it when it goes to the legislature. So we've been making sure that we're having the same figure. So I think it's going to be better news for us ultimately, that will take us out of hold harmless. And we'll talk more tonight in closed session around some of the things in terms of negotiations and so forth. So we have a better idea.
But when you go to the meeting, you're going to have some idea of what you're receiving, so you can tell them what you want to do with it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But one of the things is, I think there's this, what they don't know is that, we have a huge PERS increase coming. We have standard roll-ups of step and columns. And so that money gets spent really, really fast. And there's not a lot left to the instructional piece of that. Is all things that we have to determine. And then some of this conversation is also a little premature because we haven't even had a chance to talk to you as a board about what our budget looks like for next year, which doesn't come until the April and May board meeting. And this is one of the struggles that we've had with, the way that the budget process is in the state of Nevada. We're coming to you with a budget for next year before we even know what we're going to get out of the legislative session. And so the order of events just makes it very difficult. And so that's been one of the things. But again, we understand the importance of showing up. If you're summoned, you show up. So we'll be there.
We used to,
Trustee Burns?
we used to have money directly from the county to the school. That went-
Were you talking to your mic real quick for Tony?
Sorry. We had knew what was going on. We don't now. But the 2 billion, something about 1.2 billion is all it's going to be available. Do you want to elaborate on that?
That's, yeah, okay. We gotta get back into the agenda. We're going off on task. She is right. So, but we can do a presentation, but just on the surface, it does not look like it's 2 billion.
Okay.
Thank you, Superintendent Lewis. Carpet maintenance project, number 9 on the agenda. Mr. Scott McCullough, do you come up? Thank you. Oh, and Phil Demus.
Thank you, President Jansen. Scott McCullough, Douglas County, for the record. 4 years ago, we started the carpet maintenance program. to Systematically upgrade the deteriorating carpet in the district. In fact, this library was one of the years we redid the library. And we approach the project as the carpet in the worst condition district-wide. I mean, if it's got duct tape on it, that's a high on the priority list for change. I think we finally have eliminated all the carpet in that bad of shape. This year we identified the corridor in the 400 building next door, 4 classrooms over there. And then the corridors in Whitetail High School. So we bid the project, received 2 bids. BT Mancini is recommended for award. And they have been successful the last 2 years as low bid for the project and have done exceptional work for the district. So with that, we're available for questions.
Questions from the board? Questions, public.
So we need a motion.
And I'd like a motion from the floor.
President Jansen, can I speak real quickly?
Of course.
On item 9, the description of it does ask for the authorization to the superintendent for the authority to approve change orders up to 10%. That was not included in the recommendation. So if you're so kind, I would like that in the recommendation. I apologize that it didn't get there.
Any comments from the board? Trustee Kangas?
Prepared to make motion.
There's no other comments. I would appreciate that. Is there a second?
You gotta make,
Make
just say it.
Mr.
Okay.
Kangas.
Thank you.
You're
I recommend the board that award the bid for the DCSD carpet maintenance project to BT Mancini in the amount of $75,792 as recommended by Director of Facilities Phil Demus, Project Manager Scott McCullough, and I would also like the board to approve a 10% overrun cost at the discretion of the superintendent.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, trustee Gilkerson. Okay, when we vote, we're going to all say aye. If we're in
Now we got public comment.
public comment.
Just a sec, let me check online. Oh, John, are you checking online? Nobody online, President?
Okay, if I would like everyone to say aye and raise your hand if you are in favor of this motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved.
Is it? Yeah. Everyone was in agreement? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes,
No,
sir. No?
I didn't see 7 hands.
Oh, no? Okay. Okay.
Oh, your name?
Okay. All not in favor, please say nay. Trustee Burns is a nay.
Okay.
Just waiting. I'm waiting for Karen.
It may be helpful if you can just say all in favor, aye, any opposed, and for each motion that's on the floor.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Moving to number 10, the first reading of board policy. Oh, we need Mr. Walling is going to be our speaker.
What? Oh. I'm actually the speaker on this one.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent
Oh,
Lewis. So first
Yep,
reading
sorry
of
about that.
First reading of Board Policy 621, grant application authorization for possible action.
All right, so before you, at the last board meeting, you approved parameters around which we could apply for grant funding. As part of that motion, staff was directed to come back with a policy along the parameters of what you approved last month. And so before you would be a new board policy 621, grant application authorization, and the language that the district staff brings forward. So I will turn it over to the board for discussion.
Any comments from the board? Okay. Okay, trustee Gilkerson.
Yes, I know all of us received a survey from our parents, and I'm not gonna step on anybody's toes, but after looking at the survey, the majority of the people did not want to have this resolution passed. So, therefore, I will be voting against it. So go with what the parents want.
Any other comments from the board? Trustee Kangas?
Yes, I'm of the same flavor of voting against it. And in my opinion is I've, been given the knowledge that not a single grant has these types of stipulations. So I feel comfortable in voting against it.
Any other comments from the board?
My comment would be that maybe we haven't had grants in the past that have been an issue, but I'm just looking at the climate of our school across the nation. And this is, to me, a preventative measure that does not harm our school. If there's going to be a grant that comes out that's going to go against what I feel is detrimental to our students. In other words, we have some hoops we have to jump through that I'm not willing to do, then I think it's good to have something like this in place. So I will vote for it.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comment from the board? I'd like someone to make a motion, please. Trustee Engelkirk,
I make a motion to approve the first reading board policy 621 as written, grant application authorization.
trustee Burns seconds it. Now we're at public comment.
Marcus Zinke for the record with the Douglas High School, or actually Douglas School District parent group here. Echoing what Mrs. Gilkerson said, or trustee Gilkerson, sorry, apologize for that. Our group, again, 77 parents, that seems to be a theme here, responded representing, I believe, 150 students. And overwhelmingly, actually, this one, I'm reading the wrong one. This one's not overwhelmingly, but it is a no. The question was asked in such a way, should the Douglas County School Board pass the board policy number 621 grant application authorization? We had 60% no, 35% yes, and then we offered up a bunch of other options like, I don't understand. It is not clear what a yes or no vote is doing. And they're not sure why this is even an agenda item. And those were minuscule amounts equaling up to the 100% total. So roughly 5% or so. I will say we did reach out on one of these questions to get a, we were told on one of these that our question was biased. And so we reached out to ask if maybe one of the trustees would like to write our question for our parent group. And our response was that we don't represent all of the taxpayers. You are correct. That's why it's called the parent group. If there was a group that wanted to form on their own and represent all of the taxpayers, I think that would be up to them. But we are specifically a parent group with parents that have a vested interest in what happens with the school board and the school district. I think what maybe keeps getting forgotten, at least in my personal opinion, is this is the school board. This isn't the county board. This isn't Minden. This isn't Gardnerville. This is the school board. In order, our priorities should be students, parents, teachers, faculty, administration. And I'm not sure that that's the case, but I'm hopeful. So anyway, in this agenda item, we were 60% no and 35% yes, with varying comments that I'm sure each of you have if you read your email. Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Zinke. Any other comments? Thank you. Mrs. Muzzy? Mrs.
Yes. Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Thank you.
Yes.
My name is Jan Muzzy, and I do not have children in Douglas County, but I am a taxpayer. And when I look at my tax bill, the largest amount that my taxes go to the school. So yes, I do have a vested interest in what happens in this county when it comes to the school district. I also agree with Trustee Engelkirk that this resolution would be something that would prevent what may be coming down the pike in the future. As I understand it, that what is happening across the country is that there is a position of DEI that is being required in schools. This is something that as a taxpayer, I find unacceptable and does nothing to promote the education of our students so that they will be future productive citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Muzzy. Any other comments? Casey Rogers?
The survey, 77 parents, is that correct? The one that you have received? Because that's what he mentioned. So it was a 77 parents. There's a lot of teachers and parents that go to these schools. And so I would really look into finding out who's making those decisions before you just say that they're just regular parents out there making these decisions, because these groups kind of like to get together and do certain things. Secondly, 77 is not significant out of 5,300 plus students in the district. It is very minimal. So unless you're going to base it off of that, I mean, get on with it. I completely agree. And lastly, there were grants that were received and special funds and money over the COVID crisis that the school district accepted, but in doing so had to follow what they were asked to do with go against basically all of our rights and take them away and mask students and force vaccinate the population, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's critical that you pay attention to where you're getting your and why. Because I don't feel like the last did that. And I feel like our children suffered greatly because of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Enter, is there somebody online? Colin Burrows. Go ahead, Mr. Burrows.
Thank you, Colin Burrows, for the record. I am a parent in this district, and I was just reading the policy, and it seems to me it's just a little bit poorly written, is because I don't necessarily understand that the terms are clearly defined within the policy. So I'd like to see an expansion of what you're meaning by intersectionality identifies multiple factors. Like, what do you mean by that? And how is a grant affected by that? Secondly, what is meant by equity of outcome, so that somebody evaluating the grant understands what they mean and when it's rejected, when it's not, because just reading it, I don't know if I was evaluating the grant, what that means. Also, on there is, what are traditional pronouns? Again, this is subjective. It needs to be clearly defined what you mean. How does it relate? Because to me, some of that, wouldn't you want to use intersectionality to identify multiple factors when it comes to some of these student achievements, especially when it relates to the fact we've had free meals in our schools the last couple of years? Wouldn't you want to understand, based on ethnicity, income, class, gender, those things that are defined under intersectionality, to explore, did that free food increase their achievements? Wouldn't you want to use that to our advantage? So I think the policy needs to be clearly defined, so a parent or a taxpayer reading it understands that we just gave up money to our school district because it didn't pass this policy. That's all. Thank you very much for entertaining me.
Thank you, Mr. Burrows. Any other comments? Dave?
David Seat. Yeah, I would like to say that I do approve of this policy. This policy addresses the funds to be used or the grants and how they are approved. Last meeting, David Burns stated that it's an insurance policy. And I agree with that. The sheriff's deputy Brent is here right now to protect us in the event of an evildoer wishing to cause us harm. I pray we don't have to use that policy, but I am grateful to for his presence. To acknowledge and prepare for possible threats is not fear, it is wisdom. I personally believe in being prepared, and I support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seat. Any other comments in the audience? Any other online, Mr. Enter? Okay. Yes, Trustee Engelkirk?
I would just like to say as far as the comments about having this be more clearly outlined, that, I mean, we could have a multi-page dissertation written on this subject. And I'm hoping that the mood of the board and the feelings of what we're trying to accomplish here are clear to those that are going to be seeking grant funding. Mr. Mark Walling is our guy in charge of that. So I think he understands our concerns. And if there is something that comes up that's questionable, I would hope that would be brought before the board. And so based on that, I would say that we don't need to make this document too much longer than it is.
Thank you. Would you like to make a motion?
I'd like to see.
Yes.
I know. Didn't mean to
Trustee Gilkerson.
Shout out, but you weren't looking my way, so I have to, sorry. I apologize.
Thank you.
Not being recognized. Yes, what I'd like to say is kind of what Mr.
Thank you, mentioned.
is that we had 77 parents fill this out and yes, it was only out of 5,000. That's not a great percentage. But, and I wanted to say this last time, but I didn't think about it quick enough, is that we have people that spoke last meeting and again this meeting. And we had maybe 4 people speak in favor. And we had, I think, 8 people speak last meeting, but that's 8 and 4 out of 50,000 community members. So when you're looking at who we're going to listen to, are we listening to majority? Are we listening to parents? Who are we really listening to? And I always choose to listen to the parents. And another thing I'd like to ask our board, and I'd like to know from each of you, we all received this. We all got this email to us, correct? And I want to know that everyone took the time to read it and read the comments. Did we?
I did.
Okay. 'Cause if not, I'd like to read a few to you.
Oh, no, we do our
You all
homework.
read it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Thank you. Then I hope you'll take that into consideration, what the parents took the time to respond to. Thank you very much, President Jensen.
Thank you. Trustee Dickerson.
So there is, in my opinion, no downside to this. It's an insurance policy in a way. If nobody's going to be taking any grants that are questionable, then there's no problem here. This is just looking out for the children, looking out for the teachers that are teaching, in my opinion. There's nothing nefarious here. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I'd like to ask a question to our superintendent. How does this affect us? The timing of these grants and not performing on them? How does it affect it?
Well, doesn't have any impact now because in the prior month, you've put the parameters around grants already. This is formalizing that into a policy. I do have to, I think, caveat this because whenever you develop a policy, you have to assume that everyone at some point will no longer be here and somebody else will come along and have to interpret your policy. And so to say that Mr. Walling knows what you want, that may be accurate for the now, but if Mr. Walling leaves tomorrow, the next person comes in and it's open for interpretation. And I think that's, I will tell you, I mean, I struggled only with, the exception of what was kind of put in outline for me. Because I don't know that I'm the person that can define intersectionality. I don't know that, that I can accurately define equity of outcome. Or an opportunity outcome. I have a general sense that equity of outcome is that it's not about all kids getting A's, that all kids are going to, whether they earned it or not, get 4.0s. And again, the non-traditional, who's defining the traditional. So those are hard, yet we have it in a policy. But to be frank and upfront, I do worry a little bit how they're defining how they might be interpreted through time. And I feel like I need to say that. So.
Trustee Burns.
We could make a book on it. And that can't happen. We can't, we can keep adding things. The bottom line is, as far as I'm going to speak for myself, did a lot of homework on this. I know the abbreviations and what they stand for and what it says. And I'm suggesting anybody that doesn't understand that, they need to go online and they need to start doing homework on it. I had to. Is this on? Yeah. Okay. So, it's very important that when we decide to make a decision or come against something or speak against something or question it, we need to know what it says. And so this has been out. Even from last month, and people could go online and look this stuff up, and it's pretty clear what it is. You know, we can sit here for hours explaining it, but that's my suggestion. So later on, yeah, I'm not going to be around here forever. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear by explanation what is online. And I can tell you this, I've also done homework how this is going across the nation. We sit here in Douglas County and we say that doesn't affect us. That doesn't affect us. We keep saying it about different things. And it's great. I'm glad it's not here. But these are safety precautions to make sure it doesn't come here in the future with others as well. You know, it's causing havoc across this nation. School boards are, I mean, superintendents are being fired left and right. School boards are just exploding. We just don't want to see that here. So we have guidelines to make sure that these things meet the standard for this area, Douglas County, and the people here and what they are asking for as a majority. So that's what I would suggest is do your homework, see what it really means, because we do get a lot of these questions and we explain it. I mean, so I hope that helps to just have to go and research it just like anybody else would for anything else. Thank you.
Any other comments? Trustee Engelkirk?
First off, in regard to Trustee Gilkerson's comments about representation, we were elected to the board by the whole county, all of us. So I think that's our job, is to represent the county. And then I have a question. We're just, as far as how this works, we're on a first reading right now. So next month, we bring it back for a second reading. And at this point, we have no changes. But so do we need to approve it now? Could we say, okay, we'll sit down and we'll maybe try and expand it a little bit and bring more detail? And in which case, would that be one of us to do that? Could I do that? And we put the vote off till the next meeting? I'm just throwing out suggestions so that we can try and appease as many people as possible.
So obviously that is certainly within your realm. Yes, you could do that.
So, but I
And
mean,
you are right in terms of process. Tonight would be a first reading. If there were no substantive changes, then we would bring it back next month for second reading, and then it would go into effect upon approval as a second reading. It's certainly a policy that you could provide input on. And again, I'm just, you know, I'm not trying to be oppositional, but I think you can go online and find a million different definitions of it. That's, you know, and that's what website are you going to? So I think that's the issue. And certainly if people want to provide some, you know, broader definition, we can do that. I mean, Dave makes a point. Yeah, this could end up being a novel. And I know we don't want that either, but
okay,
it's
well,
really up to you. I mean, I feel like I have to state that all policies, and you won't be here all as a board forever either. And so you have to think long-term, how does someone come in and interpret this who didn't have the history that we all maybe played in that? So.
Well, then I would refer to the second paragraph. This policy by no means can be construed to knowingly discriminate against any person or group based on the 14th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America. So I think, you know, the 14th Amendment is fairly established in our society. And I think that is our guiding principle here. So I guess when a grant comes to us, if we have that as our guiding light, maybe that can answer our questions, and we don't need to make this into a book.
Any further questions from the board? Any further comments from the board? Okay. Yes, Trustee Gilkerson.
I would just like to go back to state that I would like for us to think about the 77 parents that took the time to fill out this survey. And Dave, did you have something to say?
Trustee
Did you?
Burns.
I'm sorry. I thought you were saying something when I was talking. I say that we have always wanted to hear from our parents. And that's what we talked about during the election, is wanting to get parents to come to the meetings and to get involved. And yet I feel like maybe we're not listening to them as much as we, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Do I? I think that I'm ready to take a vote. I'd like someone to make a motion. Yes. Yes, sir.
Legal counsel has maybe made a friendly addition to this, so I just want, before you move forward. So in that last paragraph, this policy by no means can be construed to knowingly discriminate against any person or group based. The recommended suggestion is on any local, state, or federal law, including but not limited to the 14th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America. So really spelling out that we're also talking local, state, and federal law. Does that
Sounds awesome.
Does everyone gather? So it'd be, this policy by no means can be construed to knowingly discriminate against any person or group based on any local, state, or federal law, including but not limited to the 14th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America.
We've
Trustee
already-
Engelkirk?
We already made a motion for the first.
Oh, you
sentence,
did? Okay.
Yeah, we
but
did.
I would like to
Okay.
make an amendment that we could put that in there. So I make a motion for an amendment for the writing of Carolyn Renner.
Withdrawal.
No, can't this just be a minor change of it, amendment to it?
The motion went on already. Withdrawal. Okay, second, did we second it?
Yeah, we did.
Both you agreed, and then you just make a new motion.
Okay,
If you agree.
I withdraw my motion pending a further motion.
Dave, you withdraw your second, or Catherine, it was you?
I didn't second, but I'll withdraw it. I didn't.
Oh,
I
did we
didn't
not get a second?
I didn't think there was a second.
Did I? Okay.
Mr. Burns, Trustee Burns.
Okay, thank you. All right,
Okay,
now-
in that case, I would like to make a motion. Let me find it again here.
Here.
Approve. Where am I looking? Okay, I would like to make a motion to approve the first reading of board policy number 621, with the changes being in the second paragraph after group based on, it would read on any local, state, or federal law, including but not limited to, and then go on to the 14th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Burns seconds that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Thank you very much. 5 in favor and 2 opposed. The measure passes. Karen, do you have all of the,
Fine.
Sorry.
oh, is there any public
The
comment?
change. that
With the, is there any public comment in regard to the change? Yes, sir. Online? Go ahead.
You said, is this on?
It's on, yeah.
Okay, doesn't sound like to me it's on, but you said it, public comment in regard to the change. You actually mean public comment in regard to the passing of this as a first reading, right?
Yes, with the change.
With the change, right? Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about the term intersectionality that was being discussed. It is there is a
Mrs. Sterrett, you need to identify
Oh,
yourself
yes.
for Karen. Thank
sorry,
you.
everybody. I thought everybody knew me. Virginia Sterrett.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to say that in today's world, if you tune in to anything much that's on a political discussion of sexuality, gender, anything, the term intersectionality is used constantly. And it has assumed a specific meaning, I think, in a way, of the intersection of all these different types of people who consider themselves marginalized groups. So intersectionality is really just talking about the conglomeration of marginalized groups. And that nobody stops and says, well, what do you mean by that? You need to go into a dissertation about what is intersectionality. It's just known as a shortcut for not having to name every single group that considers itself or it would be included in marginalized. And probably it reaches out and incorporates any new ones that are added day by day as they seem to be. So I don't really think there's a problem with that term standing alone, being understood as something with meaning. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Enter? Okay, Ms. Jeffries?
Hi, Courtney Jeffries, parent. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I basically just wanted to comment and say that this proposed policy is a thinly veiled attempt to silence discussions of race, gender, and sexuality among students and educators. These stop students from being able to openly talk about history, experiences, and viewpoints of all communities and cultures represented in the classroom. What's next? Videos and surveillance of teachers and students in the classroom for signs of learning or teaching about race or gender. You are bullying our educators to stay quiet about our nation's history. Currently, no one is teaching CRT or anything else that you're talking about in classrooms, but you are bullying them to not be able to teach at all. What's next? Saying that we can't talk about Rosa Parks, MLK, Harvey Milk, Native American wars, immigration? You think we want to destroy the constitutional aspects, and that's wrong. The 14th Amendment protects everyone, but you seem to only want to protect straight white students. The First Amendment protects freedom of speech, yet you want to censor it. Educators cannot be put into a box where diversity is squashed and children are further discriminated against for their skin color, religion, culture, or sexual orientation. Hate breeds hate, and this is what this new policy would create. This is a slippery slope. What's next? I pray y'all reevaluate this separate but equal policy you're trying to create.
Sir, would you like to introduce yourself? And there's one more online. So Mr. Enter, decide who's going to go next. Okay. Introduce yourself, please.
Greg Clausen. I did want to seek some clarification on including but not limited to. So I understand local, state, and the United States Constitution. But when you say not limited to those, what barn door are we opening?
Being sure to cover the.
Oh, sorry.
Just being sure to cover that there's plenty of anti-discrimination laws within the local, state, and federal level. And so it's just covering all of that because the discrimination can't occur according to any law, not the 14th Amendment or any local, state, or federal law.
Right. So maybe we be explicit and say that, because I could interpret that as some other group doesn't like it. So that's my concern, is that it stays within the law.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Enter, you have somebody else? Thank you. Hi, Miss M.
Hi, guys. Hi, board. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. So I have lots of different comments, but I function in the capacity as a school counselor at Powaloo, and I'm a super proud employee of the district. And what I know is that public school represents all children from all walks of life. It represents all families from all walks of life. And when Trustee Burns suggested that we do our homework, isn't that precisely what we tried to do in, like, I was part of the diversity, equity, and inclusion training that you guys said was anti-American and anti-school. So in trying to do our homework, by looking into those things, we were considered to be anti-something. And so the irony for me is we're trying to figure out exactly how you guys are defining diversity, equity, and inclusion. And my understanding is that it's such a narrow scope that you guys are looking at. You are looking simply at race. Race is not all that diversity, equity, and inclusion includes. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are for our sub pops, our special pops, and everybody in between. It's for our special education students. It's for students who identify in specific ways that have nothing to do with sexuality. But if they do have to do with sexuality, we educate all students. Why are we only talking about protecting our students who don't fall into that? I just think that that's a slippery slope. We want to talk about slippery slopes. What are we communicating to our kids? I have kids who came to me and said, and I quote, "It seems like the board doesn't like people like me." That is heartbreaking to me. That is heartbreaking that that is their perception. When we think about passing policy, it's not just we're doing this because I forget what Ms. Dickerson said, something like nobody loses. That is not that's not what is being communicated to our staff and students and families. What's being communicated is we have a very narrow political view and we don't care about staff and students. We want to pass this so that we can protect what is not here, which is a bit crazy making. And I appreciate all your positivity, truly. President Jansen, Trustee Burns, Trustee Dickerson, Trustee Gilkerson, Kangas, Engelkirk, you guys report wonderful things back to our schools, about our schools. And I'm so proud of our schools in Douglas County, but I want to make sure that we're aware that we do not close the door on anyone, that students who are identifying as part of the LGBTQ plus.
Thank you, Ms. M.
Thank you.
Ms. Rogers.
I would like to make a suggestion. We used to have cards that said, okay, you have this many minutes on this card. Then you hold up another card, you have 30 seconds left. Then you hold up another card, you're done. I'd like to reinstitute that. That worked very well in the past.
Thank you, Trustee Magnata.
Casey Rogers for the record. Okay. Well, I'm reading the 14th Amendment, Equal Protection of Other Rights. It basically says that everybody's protected under it. So I don't understand why we're having this big discussion. Intersectionality, yes, big sociology teachings and everything else, because they want to say that some groups are crushing other groups and everything else. Like we don't have the opportunities everywhere you go. That's really what the intersectionality thing is all about. And it is a CRT theory. It's all encompassed into that, which we're saying we're not going to be teaching here, but yet everybody's saying like the counselors coming in saying with it. And, I don't understand. And these other parents are saying, so basically people are saying they want CRT. They want the critical race theory teaching. It's kind of how I'm taking it, because everything under the 14th Amendment right now is saying that no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, or deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, and the citizens of the United States and of the states within they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall be abridged of privileges and immunities. I mean, come on. We're all saying the same thing. We're all protecting the kids, right? It almost seems like they want the other stuff in here where we're saying white kids are privileged and Hispanic kids and Black kids and Asian kids and everybody else are not privileged. We're all privileged to live in the United States of America. If you've been in any other country in the world, you are very blessed to be here. You're welcome.
Thank you.
I wasn't aware we got a second chance to speak. Maybe that was because an amendment to the agenda item. I'm not sure if that's correct or not, but Marcus Zinke for the record, just to address a few things here, which is nice because we rarely get that opportunity after we have spoken. Nothing about our parents group is biased. It was offered to the entire school system. Every parent was given an email to join our group. We don't discriminate against anyone. All we do is present the facts that were given to us by the people that respond. So if 77 parents responded out of the 300 that are signed up for our group, and they on this agenda item said 60% no. We also told you 35% said yes. But if everyone is different in our list and we silence anyone, that would be what this kind of feels like, right? This feels futile because you guys have already passed this motion. Everyone already, it's 5-2. Like, what are we doing here? So with that, if you need to speak for hours discussing the terms that are on this agenda item, and you admittedly could sit for hours and do that, then it's clearly not clear. How can you speak of something for hours and hours if it's clear? It's not clear. I've heard 3 different definitions of intersectionality in the last 15 minutes. And then you guys made the comment, one of you made the comment that you were elected by the whole county. You were not. You were elected by more than half of the people that decided to vote. No different than our parent group. More than half of the people that decided to sign up, and what they said is what is the 60%. I voted on this too, and I've been in favor of some of it and against some of it. That's the beauty of it. But that's, if you run on the premise that you're going to listen to parents, then listening to parents should be a priority, right? And so again, with all of this, amendments are also disputed at all times. That's what the Supreme Court is for. And it happens all the time. And the laws adapt and change all the time. So again, with the definitions of what you're setting forth, you guys seem to think they're clear for you. I haven't heard a single person say a correct definition yet, because it's all been different. And moving forward, that would be extremely important if, when this board is gone and these teachers are gone and some of the administration and faculty are gone and grants come through that are worth millions of dollars potentially. Like, again, if we're going to protect about the unseen, then let's announce the unseen and play the what if game. If $1 billion grant comes into Douglas County and it has a tiny little stipulation that you have to teach a little bit of history that's not favorable to someone's opinion, and it doesn't fall in line with this grant, what do we do? And that could be either way. What if it's in agreement with what you're thinking and someone says it's the opposite, right? It's important. Thank you.
Thank you. Any?
I'd like to call the question.
Next. We have one more. Okay.
Nick Meyer for the record. The new members to the board were elected overwhelmingly by voters of this county. And they were very, very clear about what their positions were and policies were regarding critical race theory, intersectionality, equity. Anyone who has been following what has been happening throughout school boards, throughout the country, with critical race theory, intersectionality, knows that these issues are coming down through the federal government, through our state government, the Nevada Education Board, through the Association of School Boards. These types of issues are being pushed down to local counties from those organizations. So this policy is a fulfillment of what the new board members ran on. They're fulfilling their promise by putting a policy in place like this that is an anti-discrimination policy. Okay? If you're gay, you cannot be discriminated against. If you're transgendered, you cannot be discriminated against. If you're of a certain race, you cannot be discriminated against. It's an anti-discrimination policy, which is a bulwark against what is coming down from the federal government and state governments, which is specifically to discriminate against people based upon their race or their sexuality. So let's be clear about what this is. This is an anti-discrimination policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Enter? Okay. Trustee Engelkirk?
We can do vote now if there's more discussion.
Okay. Would you like to make the motion? Okay. Would you like to make the motion?
Made the motion.
Okay.
Vote.
Okay. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it 4-3. Did you get who's? Okay, the I. Okay. Okay, would you like me to say them out? The nays are trustee Magnata, trustee Gilkerson, and trustee Kangas. Motion passes. Okay. Now we go to number 11. Douglas County School District Board Resolution, Equal Educational Opportunities, and our speaker will be Superintendent Lewis.
All right, so before you is a resolution. Again, the board in the February meeting directed staff to bring forward a resolution similar to Lyon County's that they had approved in September of 2021, and with a merge of policy, Douglas County policy that might be relevant to this resolution. And so before you today, I want to explain a couple things. I really did do a good job of verbatim from Lyon County, including a spelling error. So we'll correct that in the second whereas. And not to point that out to my friends in Lyon County. Also in blue is new language that comes directly out of board policy, specifically board policy 103 and board policy 737, the portions of those policies that we felt were relative to the students, which this is geared towards. On the second page and third page, the green really is of no significance other than maybe to make it easier to read, since there's so much repetitive language in each one of those doctrines that cannot be taught. The green really just simplifies it for the reader. And certainly in the final resolution, we would take that out, but I wanted you to know exactly what the meat of each one of those A, B through F were. So I will turn it over to the board for discussion.
Okay. Who would like to start? Trustee Dickerson?
In reading through this, I haven't seen anything that is detrimental or dangerous or wrong. I like it. I like it. Wanted to give my opinion on that.
Trustee Kangas?
I read through it carefully. It still hasn't changed my mind. I think that it does more harm than good. And I think that it's indicated through the surveys that were taken. Don't want any of it in the school district. But I just don't see any purpose of wasting our time with it at this moment. Thank you.
Trustee Dickerson?
I'm sorry, I forgot to, the only thing I would change is equitable to equal. Outside of that, I think it's very good.
Superintendent Lewis, that was in the second sentence and then the third sentence. We were going to change equitable to equal in both of those places. In the title and then the first sentence right below it, the second line in the title, and then in the line right below it at the end.
So affirming their commitment to equal educational opportunities for all students would be in the title. And then whereas the Douglas County School District Board of Trustees are committed to ensuring equal educational opportunities for all students. Is that correct?
Perfect.
I have a question.
Trustee Engelkirk?
Trustee Kangas, I'm curious what harm do you think this document is doing?
It's another set of handcuffs for our educators. We have policies in place and we don't have evidence of this. I feel very confident that our trained professionals will bring this to our attention if it comes into light.
Trustee Dickerson?
There was somebody that called in that stated, I believe a counselor, that DEI was something that she was teaching in professional development and thought it was just fine. So I think these things are very important to have in place because clearly it's arrived. Thank you. Thank you.
Trustee Burns?
I'm going to start out, ask a question. Legal counsel. Is that better? Legal counsel, can the schools be sued in any way for discrimination? Okay. If we do
Yes.
not cover the actions of individuals, not just only the school, this school could be sued for someone that is not in line with for discrimination, which is the 14th Amendment. So saying that, this is to cover and to say we have policy. We have policy that covers the school if it ever became a legal battle. I don't feel that we have it strong enough right now. I agree with you, Mr. Gangus, that it is, some is there, but I feel that this really covers in detail and it does not tie the hands of anyone unless they're determined to do something that would be against us.
Any other comment from the board? Yes? Trustee Gilkerson?
Thank you. Something, son. Okay, so again, I'm going to go back to the survey and I'm sure Mr. Zinke's going to talk about it. But again, we had 77 responses. And I speak again that if we're going to listen to our parents and which are to me, they're the ones that carry the most weight, in my opinion. We already have policy number 103 and 437, Mr. Burns, that covers discrimination and political activity. And I do believe that that's enough. I'd also like to read one of the comments because I feel very strongly about this. It says the proposed resolution is an embarrassment to Douglas County. It has nothing to do with the 14th Amendment. The resolution is pure politics and will do nothing to further the education of the students in Douglas County, though it will likely hinder those who seek to educate them. And that's what they mean as our teachers. I trust the teachers in Douglas County to use good judgment as to what is appropriate and what is not, as do I. So therefore, I will not be voting for this resolution. Thank you.
Is that okay? Can I speak? Well, I disagree with you. I think that the 14th Amendment is an extra protection for every single student. The teacher, we trust the teachers completely. It has nothing to do with not trusting the teachers. I'm a former teacher. If you think that this isn't being pushed from every publishing company, every media company, every computer program, this is insidious. In all of this stuff that's coming in is insidious in this country. And I think people who pretend that it's harmful, that it's something other than it isn't, are being unrealistic. This is in no way a reflection on our teachers. We know how great our teachers are. I haven't seen any evidence of anything wrong in the classroom, but this has nothing to do with it. This is protecting from what's coming from Washington, D.C. and what's coming from Carson City and the publishing companies and the media. And that's all I have to say. I think that, to say this doesn't exist and it's not being pushed from many places around this country is unrealistic, but we can agree to disagree. Okay.
It is time for 5:30 public comment.
Okay, public. Is there something that you want me to read?
Yes, on the agenda, there's a blurb right before the 5:30, right at the 5:30 public comment. It's helpful for the public to read that before they have the opportunity to speak.
before we go, I don't want the same problem. 5:30. 13. Comments from the public are invited at this time on topics not specifically addressed elsewhere in the agenda. A sign-up sheet is provided and individuals who wish to address the board are asked to indicate their desire to speak and the topic about which they will speak. Individuals wishing to address the board at this time will be limited to 3 minutes. The board is precluded from acting on items raised during public comment that are not already on the agenda. Also, there will be no negative comments about our staff. Thank you.
Also, I'm not sure, President Jansen, if you want to address people commenting twice on the same topic at this time? If you
No,
have-
only once, please. We don't want to be here till 9 o'clock at night again. Thank you.
For the record, Jan Muzzy. My husband and I came here for the board meeting, and we weren't sure where the media building was located. So we went to the office to find that the doors were locked and it was closed. I would like to suggest, to be friendly to the public, that there may be a directory with a map of the campus. So when people that come to this campus looking for a particular location will know where to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a sign-up sheet that I could read and call people?
Well, it's sort of mixed up, so I don't think it would work.
Okay. Okay, then I would just ask that everybody identify themselves for Karen, please. Thank you.
Virginia Starrett. My topic is the neutral policy adopted last year by the then board. I objected in public comment then, and I continue to object now. I was reminded about this, in my opinion, anti-teaching policy when I read the backup material for agenda item 10 that incorporates Board Policy 103 in its text. Board Policy 103 states clearly that a teacher should address political topics as impartially and objectively as possible. And in another part, it states that critical thinking should be encouraged by offering multiple perspectives on an issue. I would have applauded both of these statements 10 years ago when there was a recognized consensus of what was true and what was false in subjects such as history and science, but things have changed dramatically. If a science teacher at Douglas High is asked how many genders there are, what kind of answer do you think he or she would be able to give? Would he or she have to say something like, well, some scientists say there are 2, but other scientists think there are 87 or 49 or 7 main ones and 4 lesser ones, which is also all true. What happens to quote science when a teacher gives that kind of response? You do know that the progressive push for equity says that math, for instance, is racist. How would a teacher bound to a neutral policy or even policy 103 respond to that put in question form? Is math racist? Would the teacher have to allow that perhaps it is? History is the most egregious on neutrality, though. Was the Revolutionary War fought mainly to preserve slavery? The 1619 Project main writer said so, despite a chorus of acknowledged historians who are regarded as experts on that era saying that is not so. In fact, they say it so convincingly that the author now acknowledges that she was wrong in making that assertion. But under the mandates of neutrality, could the teacher state unequivocally that the Revolutionary War was not fought mainly to preserve slavery? My attention here is to challenge you as a board and other educators to consider what has happened to facts. When I went to school, facts were important and not controversial to a large degree. In this politicized world, loads of facts have become political. No neutral policy should be construed to prevent any teacher from teaching facts at any time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Starrett. Okay. Thank you. Hello, Ms.
Hi, I would just like to do some clarification because either my microphone wasn't on or Trustee Dickerson didn't hear me well enough, but I never said that I taught DEI. There was a class offered through ASCA, which is a counseling association that we are affiliated with to be nationally board certified counselors. And so it was a summer course that we were allowed to take. And I took the opportunity because I did not know
Katie, sorry to interrupt you. This, you're coming back, I think, for the previous agenda item. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
we'll stop you. And if you want to speak at that time, that would be more appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Thank you.
Carrie Karwoski. I'm a parent here in Douglas County, one currently, one already graduated. I was holding comment from last one, holding it for this one. I am a part of the Douglas Parent Advisory Committee. For the public record, I think, Gilkerson, I would like to thank you. I'd like more of the parent involvement. I want it to be noted in this forum that that is a vehicle, and there is a parent advisor for each and every school. It should be a way also that parents feel comfortable getting engaged and involved. They're public meetings. They can come to the Parent Advisory Council. I think a lot of parents right now are feeling at a loss of how to voice and how to become involved. And I'd like to advocate for this as another vehicle for parents to be able to, as you're watching these school board meetings, to be able to voice your opinion through the, and I am right now a high school representative and willing to put myself out there. If there are parents, they can come and find out what DPAC does and how you can be involved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Didn't write with blue pen either. Those of you who know me, just so you know. My name is Karen Lamb, for the record. I am a teacher here at Douglas High School. I was a student of here, and then I am also the president of the Douglas County Professional Education Association. I just want to say that I am hoping that going forward, and I know that you already addressed this, President Jansen, I appreciated your statement at the beginning of the meeting, is that I think respect and understanding and addressing real issues in our district has to be paramount to everything else. And so while I appreciate insurance policies, my dad taught me that they're important, that I also think there are real pressing issues in our district. The one I do want to mention, and it's just happened here tonight for when there's been a couple comments from staff and educators in our district that have been giggled about in the audience, is that teachers feel vilified. Maybe not all of them, but many of them. And it's not, you can disagree with how they feel, and your intent can be different. Doesn't change how they feel. And I care about the teachers in this district. I believe a lot in them, and I'm believing you when you all say that you do as well. But they also need to be showed trust. They need to be showed that you believe that it's not happening and that they have the professionalism and preparation to do so. And I think that is important. And I think at these meetings, the more that as an audience and as a board, that we can all pay attention and not scoff off anyone's feelings or comments, but really take all that to heart. It only helps us be better as a group, because it's about the board, it's about teachers, it's about parents, it's about kids, it's about all of them together, helping us do the very best we can. And I believe in this place because I'm a product of it. I do also want to say there's a map of DHS on the DHS website.
Thank you, Mrs. Lamb. You're awesome. Any other comments?
David Seat, for the record. I find it to be disappointing and a revealing lack of character that a former board member would call in at the last board meeting in February to disparage our new board president. That phone call was evidence of a poor loser. Elections have consequences.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Enter? Okay. Yeah, we know. Nobody else spells it. Go ahead, Mr. Lehman.
Oh, hi. I wasn't going to speak until that last comment. While
You're going to
do have-
apologize? Thank you.
are you going to, I'm sorry, Miss Jansen, are you going to cut me off or do I get my time?
Go.
State your name for the record.
My name is Rob Lehman. I wasn't going to call in, but I am now. Elections do have consequences. And because of that, I'm not there tonight. I'm elsewhere. I'm not running around lying and saying that I won the election when I didn't. I'm not riling people up to go protest because I claim I won the election and I didn't. I just accepted the loss. But even though I lost, that doesn't mean that I can't hold this board accountable. This board claimed to want to do everything transparently, yet they worked behind the scenes with Mr. Meyer, Miss Virginia Starrett, and the Muzzies to come up with who are going to be the officers of this board. They did that against the law, working with 4 members of this board, Mr. Burns, Miss Jansen, Miss Dickerson, and Mr. Engelkirk. They worked against the law to coordinate who was going to be the officers of this board. That's illegal. And as a parent, and as someone who cares about what happens, I will call it. And I
Okay,
will.
we need to have order with the audience. I'm sorry, Mr. Lehman. I'm going to interrupt you for just a minute and explain that you are entitled to provide your comments with respect to the board members.
So even though I did lose, I'm still a parent. I'm still allowed my 3 minutes to talk. And if people show up, board members unprepared for items, that's okay for me to say that. You need to show up prepared for items. And I think it's also embarrassing to run and say, oh, we want to listen to parents. We want to listen to parents, when in fact, you only want to listen to parents that agree with you. You don't really want to listen to all parents. You just want the ones that agree with you. So just say that. Just say that and move on, because that's the way you feel. Feel that way and do it. That's fine. But don't say one thing and do another thing. That's classic politician crap. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
There's one more online. He's already. Okay. Whoever you go.
Attention, Mama.
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Who are we gonna have this, Mr. Zinke? Yes. Correct. He has not spoken during public comment. Go ahead, Mr. Zinke.
Mr. Zinke, for the record, look, I'm giving this board a chance. Okay. And I think what is continually happening between the people in the audience and the trustee members is there's a level of decorum that's not being met. When someone calls in and provides just his first name, you assume who it is, and then you scoff him and make a joke if he's calling in to apologize. That's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen a school board do. As funny as it was to you, that's something for outside of this school board. When members of the audience now for the second board meeting in a row erupt because they don't like what's being said, the decorum and the decency of this board is to stop that. You have a gavel. I suggest you use it. It doesn't matter if you agree with what the people are saying out here, right? I'm going to agree with you a lot of the time. I'm born and raised in this county, conservative. Okay, we're going to agree a lot. But when we disagree and you disagree, that's fine. I just think you guys need to take into consideration what other people are saying, not just the constituents that voted for you, not just the people that agree with you, but everyone. It's like just a second ago, a person stood up here and said, we can only teach facts. Oh, okay, so what do you teach when you teach communism and socialism and Republicans and conservatives and Democrats? You just teach all of them straight across the board and you don't say consequences of such? Can they say that more people were killed during communist reign than any? Can they say that communism is bad? I would imagine you guys would agree with that. Can anyone then say communism is good? I don't know your response. I would say it's not. But can someone say conservatism is good? And you would say, yep, that right on, that's awesome. As soon as someone said being a Democrat is bad, would you chastise them? Right? If you teach the facts of each of these things, and some of it is disparaging comments and some of it isn't, what is allowed and what isn't allowed? And I think that's what we're trying to get to with these different agenda items that I'm not going to speak of now, because I'm sure there's public comment for that as well. But we can't go around bashing everyone we disagree with, and we can't certainly call out someone that called in as a public comment and ask him if he called to apologize. Ridiculous. No.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Ms. Jeffries?
Yes, Courtney Jeffries again. I agree with I believe it was Zerke that just spoke. President Jansen, I am not trying to be disrespectful at all, but I am watching you, and he is completely correct. All of you as a board are asking for respect. You are asking for respect for everyone. You need to please respect comments that are against your views, because I am watching you shake your head no and laugh when people have comments that are against your views. And it is very disrespectful, and it hurts me as a parent to watch someone on the board be so disrespectful to someone that is against your comments. And that is not okay. That is not okay. As the president, you need to hold standards, and you are not holding them. Thank you.
Any other comments? Anything else? Anyone else online? Okay, can we close public comment now? Okay, I'd like to close public comment. We're going back to agenda item 11. I think we were about to make a motion.
Was there a motion made?
No.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay. Did anyone else have any other comments on the board? Public comments? Okay, who would like to make a motion? We'd like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion. I would like to make a motion that Douglas County School Board Resolution Equitable Education Opportunities, SGG, be adopted with the following changes. Equitable in the opening statement will be changed to equal. Equitable in the first paragraph will be changed to equal, whereas in the second paragraph will be corrected to the proper spelling, and everything else adopted as written.
Second.
Trustee Dickerson made the second. Public comment? Okay. Go ahead and put them through. Okay, thank you. Mr. Hayden?
Hello, my name is Daniel Hayden. I'm a social studies teacher here in Douglas County Schools. I happen to be a product of Douglas County Schools as well, and I now have 2 children at Scarcelli. I'd like to respectfully ask that the board reconsider voting for this resolution because it's superfluous and because its adoption would communicate a mistrust of district staff to do their jobs. The contracts we sign every year as educators include oaths to support the state and national constitutions, including the 14th Amendment. And Board Policy 103 already clearly and adequately establishes non-discrimination policy here in DCSD. I've taught at the elementary, middle, and high school levels across content areas over the past decade in this district, and I'm confident in the ability of our education staff to properly vet materials and instruct appropriately. I find that this resolution presupposes that district staff would be susceptible to including inappropriate ideas like CRT in classrooms unless this policy were in place. And I have to say that I find that to be questioning of my professional abilities, and I find that demoralizing. It runs counter to my site and district administration's approach of trusting employees like me to do our jobs. And I hope this board will affirm its support of our staff in the same way so that we're empowered to continue this work of finding the best way to reach students and instruct effectively. And so in closing, I would again respectfully ask the board to reconsider this resolution, given that current policy already addresses this issue, and given the disheartening message that this resolution sends in regard to the board's belief in staff's ability to do what's right for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Zinke. Mr. Zinke.
Marcus Zinke for the record. So again, representing the Douglas County School District Parents Group, which is separate from the DPAC. And I actually hope everyone tries to join both. This is exactly how you get things either passed or denied or your voice heard, right? On this item, should the school board adopt a resolution like the Lyon County resolution, and all of it was presented to the parents of this group, we had 79.2% say no, 15.6% say yes, and 5% or so say yes, but with modifications. Those modifications were also presented to you in the form that we emailed over. With that, I would just ask it, we are still accepting any parent that wants to join this group, and we do mean any parent. That's the point. And I would ask you, how many parents would it take to make a difference? How many need to answer these questions? If it was every parent in the district, would you then listen? Or would it still fall on deaf ears? And I'm not saying we should definitely listen to everything on here. Again, I have different opinions than the group, but presenting the groups and the number, 77 parents representing 140 students this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Enter. Oh, go ahead, Casey. Thank you. We'll go after Casey.
You want to take that one?
No.
Oh, wait. Casey Rogers for the record. Here we go again with this parent thing. I've been coming here for quite some time now. Never seen these other people coming in with all this parent stuff here and there. And in the past, with the past board, you as a person, as an individual, could come in as and speak as a parent. But it seems like we're getting into this thing where people are saying, well, here, I'm going to present this as a parent group. Before it wasn't allowed. And now it seems like it's kind of like weaving its way in. I don't know that you can actually take what somebody's saying like that, because I could come in and tell you anything that I wanted to about another parent. But I feel like if this is public comment and public testimony and it's, recorded and written down and everything else, it's kind of like a court of law. And you're coming in as a person to speak for yourself, not for other individuals. That's the first thing. Secondly, I think if we're talking about this agenda item, 11, correct? We're on 11 still. I think you absolutely need to push this, because I'm starting to see how all of a sudden there was no CRT and now it sounds like it's getting exposed quite rapidly right now. And if they want to have a CRT topic, maybe those people need to come in here and speak on a CRT topic. Equality means for everyone. Equity is kind of like taking resources and making sure that we pull everybody else in and making everybody equal. But equality is that. So I feel like you using the word equality is the proper term. And because it covers every individual, and we're not ostracizing anyone, pushing anyone out, or saying because you're white or because you're black, you don't get to be included. You're saying everybody is included. And other people that don't want that, I mean, there's an agenda behind it or for somehow, but maybe that's a discussion for something else. But this discussion is for everybody as I see it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Whatever order you think. Why don't, we'll do the person online and then just. Go ahead. Go ahead.
This is Rob Lehman again. And I think there just needs to be a discussion a little bit about this equity versus equitable, equity versus equal. I appreciate everything Ms. Rogers just said, but there's another way to look at it. And I just want to make sure that we're looking at it both ways. Students in our school district, some of them based on their needs, are given extra time on timed tests. Some students are allowed to take tests verbally because of reading issues. Some students are allowed notes on their tests because of their learning disabilities when other students aren't. Some students are given completed notes by their teachers, and some students aren't. Some students have reduced choices on their multiple choice questions, and other students don't. And these are differences that are provided to different students based on different disabilities, based on different things that pertain to them. Are you now saying with the word equal that any student can come in and ask for any one of those accommodations because we are providing equal opportunities to all? And if so, you might be opening a huge can of worms there, because if now any of those things are not provided to one student and they are provided to another student, you're opening yourself up to discrimination. So just a check here on, do you really want to say equal? Because there are a lot of things. There are a few students in our school district that have been given internet hotspots. Can any student now come in and ask for an internet hotspot because they want equal treatment? Just a question to ask yourself, question to ask your council. Thank you.
Greg Clausen, District 6. President Jansen, thank you for taking the initiative to ensure education in Douglas County is based on objective facts. This will help to ensure an equal education opportunity for all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Nick Meyer for the record. Again, this document is an anti-discrimination document. Can anyone seriously be against item A that says that no individual will inherently discriminate against others, whether consciously or unconsciously, based on the virtue of their race, sex, disability, gender? Can anyone honestly say that they're against that no individuals should be considered members of an oppressed class or an oppressor class? Can anyone honestly say that an individual is inherently morally or otherwise superior or inferior to another individual? See, these are all tenets of critical race theory and intersectionality. And this is pervasive throughout the country. If you're on social media, if you follow mainstream news, if you watch what's coming down from the federal government, I mean, the federal government just instituted a diversity, equity, and inclusion czar in every single federal agency by executive order of President Biden. This stuff is coming here, and this document will prevent that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Mr. Enter? Okay. Anybody from the board? Mrs. Gilkerson, trustee Gilkerson?
Well, can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Sometimes you can't hear yourself. Thank you, President Jensen. Again, I go back to Mr. Zinke, Mr. Hayden, our teacher that spoke. And I think that when we're trying to decide what we should do, I still think that we need to look at what our parents want. Again, he brought up, what if we had over 50% of our parents come and say they didn't want to do this? Would you vote against it? You know, where is that line that I know you came with I know as Mr. Meyer spoke, you know, you ran on an agenda. I realize that, and you feel like you need to fulfill that agenda, and I respect that. But I know you're doing a good job going into the schools, and you yourself has said none of this is happening. So when do you then listen to parents and listen to the teachers? He used words like demoralizing, disheartening, that this policy, what it's doing to our teachers. He's on the front line. He knows what's going on with other teachers. You know, I think that we need to maybe start thinking about those things. Talk to our teachers. When we go into the classrooms, when we go talk to teachers, ask them about these policies that we're trying to pass or we're passing. Are they for it? Are they against it? I mean, I know that our taxpayers, you know, have a say too, but really it's about the parents and it's about our teachers, or we won't have teachers if we keep putting these type of things and handcuffing them and making them feel less than. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, trustee Engelkirk.
I just like to respond to a comment about this being superfluous. And I too trust our district teachers, but as was discussed earlier and when we were talking about another policy, this policy could remain in effect long after the current board and the district staff and teachers, which we trust, are around. These policies are made for long-term protection. And based on the current climate that I see at our institutions of higher learning and the indoctrination I see happening, future staff and teachers could not only skew what they present to students, they could actually discriminate, because that is certainly happening on our college campuses now. And as Nick Meyer pointed out here, if you look through A through F of these items here, I don't see how anybody with the sane mind could say that we are trying to limit what teachers can do, or we are trying to discriminate against certain students. This clearly is just protecting our students, is protecting our county from the deluge of stuff that is happening in our culture. And that is why I brought this up a year ago and it didn't get any support. And that's why I'm bringing it up again.
Thank you very much. Trustee Burns.
I'm a simple person. I'll make it a view and answer to some of the comments that's been made about trust. If I'm speeding down the street and I'm doing 45 and a 25 and Sheriff Coverly pulls me over, he's going to give me a ticket. Now I can say, you don't trust me. That's why the sign is up, 25. But if I never violate that sign, he wouldn't give me a ticket. So I'm just trying to simplify this certain things. It isn't about everybody speeding down the street. It's the ones that maybe not, that do, and needs to be stopped. We're not saying that. This is a factual thing of what's coming across this country. Sad to say, we feel it needs to be a response to it, and it's to protect the school system, protect the teachers, the employees. We feel that. Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Remmer.
I just wanted to speak to the equitable versus equal issue, because it may be something that you want to consider. The comment that was made during public comment was talking about special education students and the fact that they are taught differently due to their disabilities, and it is required under federal law. So you do have to treat those individuals differently. I think the point being made was, okay, if this person gets all the notes from the teacher to assist them on their exam, if I'm being treated equal, why am I not able to have all the notes from my teacher to take the exam? And some conniving, sly plaintiff's attorney might come up with an argument to say you're discriminating against this student because you're not allowing that person the notes. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but it may be as simple as keeping the equitable verbiage instead of changing those two words to equal, just to try to avoid that in the future. Up to you as a board.
Can I ask you a question? Isn't there a complete different set of laws? Because, I was a teacher and I know that I was in a full inclusion school, so we had a lot of special ed kids. And I thought that the law that governs special ed is completely different and can't be interfered with. Do you think that this would interfere with the special? I would not want that to happen, of course.
No, I don't think that it interferes with those laws because those students are guaranteed those
Correct.
services under federal
Correct.
law.
Right.
But if you're treating everybody equally, then why can't this student that doesn't have a disability receive the benefit of some of those accommodations?
So it's your legal recommendation that we leave it as equitable.
I think that may be best.
Well, that's okay with me if it's okay with the other board members.
It's all for you to discuss.
Legal
Trustee
counsel-
Burns?
I'm sorry, thank you. Okay, could you take a look at D and just read the green? And am I reading that? Just read that. Is that correct?
So this is saying that the following doctrines cannot be taught or implied by education staff. And D says that an individual should be discriminated against, receive adverse treatment, or receive favorable treatment as a result of their race, sex, disability, ethnicity, gender. So yeah, that may be a concern because
Should it
Should say-
should it not say not be?
No, look at the top.
oh yeah, that's covered on the top.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
It is a little bit confusing because you go to the highlights, but
Okay, got it. Thank you for that clarity.
Trustee Dickerson?
Could there be a provision put in that addresses disabilities in that regard so that that's an individual class, which obviously would need a little bit more support and some different things for their education? I mean, is there a way we can just make a provision for that?
possibly you'd have to discuss language or consider different language.
So that could be done if we came up with a,
And that was one example of possibly many, that was brought up. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but the equitable language may be a way to cover all of the bases.
Trustee Engelkirk?
I feel like we're getting into the weeds here, but I mean, we can put it back to equitable, but it seems to me that the guarantees put in place in law for people with disabilities. I just don't see that being an issue here. These points here, they just talk about simple rights for everybody. You can't be described as a member of the oppressor class or the oppressed. You can't discriminate against other consciously or unconsciously. You can't call some people morally more superior because of a certain position they hold in this world, their intersectionality or whatever. I don't see that being an issue having to do with whether some student feels like they should get the answers to a question because they don't have a disability. I don't see that being an issue, but if you guys want to remove that wording, and we can.
Yes, Superintendent Lewis?
So my recommendation is in alignment with legal counsel. I do think there's a big difference. And I, again, don't think that what's not a dispute here is that special ed students have legal rights. What one paragraph says, whereas the Douglas County School District Board of Trustees are committed to ensuring equal educational opportunities for all students. That is a big change in that. And so it's not the special ed, I believe you're opening yourself up to kids who don't have that accommodation and wanting it. So if you want the superintendent's recommendation, I would recommend against your decision.
Trustee Dickerson?
So how about just putting except those that have a disability? Can we just word it that way? I mean,
Right, that was your question before,
Yes.
and my recommendation was to stick with the equitable, so.
I would propose I'll remove my amendment and resubmit it after that change. Remove your second.
Yes.
Second.
I will remove that second. Can I ask a question?
Trustee McNada?
Who authored this?
Well, it's my work. I copied and pasted the Lyon County. So technically I authored this, but used a template from Lyon County at the direction of the board.
I would like to make a
I-
motion.
Can I, I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry to-
Trustee Gilkerson?
I apologize again for speaking out. But so, I mean, we're going around and around with this, obviously. And it doesn't seem to be the way we want it, or we did want it, now we don't, and now we do. And my question was, how many of the teachers wanted this? Did anybody ask teachers? Did we go around and ask our teachers, or is this another one of where it was already on the plate, brought to the board? That was my question to you all. Did anyone ask teachers about this?
Trustee
Just
McNada?
person-
I thought that we were going to bring this forward the next meeting. Wasn't there a motion to that effect?
The motion was for the next meeting, but that was in February and this is the next meeting. So that's why it's here.
Trustee Engelkirk?
I would like to make a motion to adopt the resolution of the Board of Trustees of Douglas County School District. Let me see how to word this. Basically, I would like to adopt the Douglas County School Board Resolution Equitable Education Opportunities as written without the change of equitable to equal or equitable to equal in the opening title and in the first paragraph, but we will correct the whereas spelling.
Second.
Trustee Dickerson seconded. Oh, let's take a vote. No, public comment.
Again, we're here. Casey Rogers for the record. I still think it should state equal. I think when you get into equitable, diversity, inclusion, any of those words put into your stuff, you're going right to where they want you to. And that's, I mean, that's really on the CRT agenda. So I think you should stick with equal or consider rewording something in another way, because equal is equal to everyone and equitable is literally pulling somebody off to the side and saying, yeah, you get more regardless. And you could say that with anything. So, you know, people talk about us laughing on this side, now they're laughing on this side, you know, whatever you want to do, but think about it hard.
Hi, my name is Darcy McInnes for the record, and just as a person who is in special education, we get sued a lot for stuff like this. And I spend the better part of most of my day writing IEPs to make things equitable for my students. And it makes me very nervous that you think everyone is equal coming to the game. I know this word's, I feel like this is politically charged to your version of what equal means. And what it means for students and kids is that it needs to be equitable, period.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead, sir.
Greg Clausen, District 6. So again, throwing around these terms, interested in President Jansen and interested in legal counsel's definition of equitable versus equal, trying to understand what the conundrum is here. What is the legal definition of equitable?
Just going to state that the word, I'm more concerned about the word equal. And although special education does have a lot of lawsuits, the issue that was being brought up was with non-disabled students demanding similar accommodations based on the language in the change of that word from equitable to equal.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? Mrs. Lamb, Ms. Lamb.
Sorry, I want to go home too, but I just want to address, there was a couple people who came up here and there were board members. You're right. I don't disagree with any of the statements you're saying. Neither did Mr. Hayden. That is not what he said. And so to the people in public comment, I'm not one of those people that disagrees with them. That's not what we are saying as educators. And I wouldn't presume to speak for all of us, but I know I speak for many of us in saying that it comes down to that demoralizing feeling of distrust. Mr. Burns, you used a great analogy, and I love to speak in metaphors, so I love that. But if we had to create more speeding laws when no one was speeding, then that's what's happening here. But no, people do speed all the time. My dad was a Douglas County Sheriff's Office for 30 years here. I know what people sped. I knew what roads I wasn't allowed on based on how people drove in this county. That's why we have those laws. What it feels like to educators is a mistrust in what we're doing. So we create more policies. I'm already not allowed to discriminate, and I already don't discriminate. So creating more policies, they feel superfluous to us in the classroom. And that is a valid feeling, and it feels a little bit disregarded by some people. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee
Could I
Engelkirk.
ask a question legal here, please? I noticed we have the date of the original board meeting, not the moved board meeting. Do we need to change that? And do we have to make an amendment to that? Please say no. Yeah, it is. It's in 2 locations. So can I just make an amendment? Just changes the date. And so when we have public comment, it's only about changing the date. Okay.
Trustee Engelkirk.
Okay. I would like to make an amendment to the motion that we change the date, which there's one at the bottom of page 1 from the 14th of March to the 20th of March. And then also we change the date at the very end by the signature page that change it from the 14th of March to the 20th of March. Need a second.
I second that.
So now you can use the public comment on the date change.
Is there any comment on the date change? Okay, ready. Now, yes, Trustee Wilkerson.
Sorry, can I speak now to what we're talking about, or we have to approve the date change first?
It's just approve the date and then we can go back to the original one.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor of the date change, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
That vote should have been on the motion as amended.
Okay. Well, let's take a vote on the motion as amended. All, All in favor?
I want to say something and I get a chance this time. Okay.
Trustee Dickerson seconded it.
Sorry.
So I just want to make sure we're all here. So we've got an amendment, we got a second, we're good on that. The motion now on the table has been changed. We will get to a vote, but prior to voting, are you recognizing trustee Gilkerson to speak on the motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Trustee Gilkerson.
And I can speak on the whole motion, right? Not just the
Yeah,
date.
the
Okay.
topic. This is
All
general.
right. Thank you. Okay. Am I correct in saying that Ms. Lamb is president of the Teachers Association, Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Okay. So they're saying that and knowing that she really speaks for a lot of the teachers. She's the head of the teachers union. And she just came up and spoke and said how teachers feel. They're not feeling trusted because of this document. So I would like you to all think about that and reconsider when we're talking about our teachers and wanting to build bridges and relationships and most importantly, trust. And again, she's the president of the teachers union. Thank you.
Any other comment from the board? Okay, we ready for the motion? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
So I'm confused.
We're voting on the motion.
date first?
No.
Approve the date.
Tony, we had a motion, we had an addendum to his motion and a second. So the motion back on is the resolution. Approving the resolution with the following changes. We're going to correct the whereas in the second paragraph that's misspelled. And we're going to change the dates, the date from the 14th day of March to the 20th day of March on the first page and the third page. We had previously discussed changing equitable to equal. The motion on the floor is to keep it at equitable as it was given to you tonight. So that's what you're voting on is the motion or this resolution in whole with those changes. Okay.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Nay. The resolution passes 5-2. The nays are trustee Gilkerson and trustee Kangas. The next agenda item is board meeting schedule, and our speakers are Superintendent Lewis and Mark Walling.
So tonight, just as a little bit of a reminder that this schedule has been approved through June by the previous, but we are discussing tonight to approve it through January 9th of 2024. Things that we are considering is obviously the location. And we have worded this purposely for Valley and Lake, just so it gives us some flexibility in terms of where that meeting location might be. Mark's going to speak to the survey that staff or that the board had directed us to conduct. But I would like in your discussion, a discussion about location in the Valley as our standard location. Right now it is the Airport Training Center, which I think is a little bit small. It's not the most accessible to people who may not have the mobility in terms of just lack of concrete and mud and the things that we've dealt with out there. I would like you to consider that this be our regular location as we can work that into the schedule around Douglas High School, of course. So that is one thing. I, as superintendent, have the opportunity in July to travel to Washington, D.C. with other superintendents to advocate on the behalf of Nevada with our legislature or our senators and representatives. And so I would ask the board to consider possibly moving the July board meeting to July 18th to accommodate that travel for myself. I think that is it in terms of the discussions. And then obviously this item came forward in terms of looking at the start time in the hopes of increasing parent participation in the board meetings. The survey was to gather information and Mark will present that to you at this time. And then we can talk more globally on that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lewis. So in your packets and on the screen, you'll have a presentation just with a summary overview of the stakeholder survey sent out.
Can you speak into the mic? I can't hear you.
Yep, can you hear that? That better?
Yeah.
Okay. So Douglas County School District, we utilize K-12 Insight. It's an online program which allows us to create projects and analyze the results in a variety of ways. We've used these for several surveys over the years. A link to the survey was sent out following the January board meeting. We sent it out on January 13th and again on February 1st. This was to all district staff and through IC Messenger, which sent to parents and students throughout all of Douglas County. After the January 10th meeting, this is what was kind of the basic of the survey. So a survey was conducted in order to seek stakeholder feedback on the start time of future board meetings. During the board discussion, several times were discussed and feedback from public comment was received. So prior to taking this survey, respondents were given the background on the current meeting time and the purpose for the survey. And then I quoted on there just the first page of the survey, the title of it, right underneath the title. So currently Douglas County School Board meetings are held on the second Tuesday of each month at 4 p.m. We are seeking input from stakeholders on the current meeting time, regardless of the feedback of future meeting times or locations. We will continue to provide virtual options for participation. That last little bit was added because part of public comment was from virtual, where folks mentioned that they were cooking dinner, things like that. So they appreciated the virtual option. So wanted to make sure that that stayed as part of the background of the survey. We asked two questions. The first was to provide the stakeholders' position of the survey. Those were whether they were parent, student, community member, or other. We received the staff member, excuse me, yep. Question 2 asked whether they liked or disliked, and we just use an icon, whether they liked or disliked the current meeting times and how those went. For those that responded that they liked the current meeting time, they were done with the survey. For those who responded that they disliked the current meeting time, there was a follow-up question with drop down that started from 3:30 to 7 o'clock in 30-minute increments. So respondents could choose a time that would fit their needs. We received 957 individual responses, 1,054 total responses. So I want to clarify the difference between those. So some respondents represented multiple stakeholder positions. And so that's why you'll see a discrepancy in those numbers. So ultimately, when we're reporting these, we're looking at the 957 responses. So somebody's not counted twice. Of those responses, this is just a breakdown of the stakeholder positions. We had 609 parents, 319 staff members, 113 students, and 13 who selected other. And then with that, they gave a description of what their position was. And so I summarized them here. They either said that they were taxpayers, community members, grandparents, or guardians were those 13 other. This is a quick breakdown of the overall results. So this is what K-12 is able to produce for us when we look at the overall results without breaking it down by category. So we have each of those proposed start times from 3:30 to 7 o'clock, where you can see the percent that voted for each, and I represented with pie chart. We can see overwhelmingly 652 responses for 4 o'clock to leave it as is. Just another visual of the same information. One thing I want to note with statistics when reporting sometimes can be misleading. So I wanted to include the entire scale. And so when you see 652 responses, it goes all the way down to 0. So we can see, you know, the minimum response or the smallest response for 8 at 4:30. You can see by comparison. For parent feedback, the results are similar. Overwhelmingly responded to leave it as is. Staff results were similar, overwhelmingly responded to leave it as is. Student results were similar to leave it as is. That's what I've got.
Thank you, Mr. Walling.
You're welcome.
Would anyone on the board like to ask questions of Mr. Walling? Trustee Burns?
20. Is it 2023 or 2032? I'm sorry, on your slide, it's
To make a typo?
2032.
Oh, sorry about that.
I give you the right chance to change that, so.
Trustee Kangas?
I have a comment, and I was on this board when it wasn't 4 o'clock. That was part of the impetus to push it out to 4 o'clock from 3:30. And I had a lot of flack for it, but we went over in a long time. I believe even before I came on the board, there were other times that were either later or before, and probably for the same reasons, to try to get more people to come to our board meetings. I don't think it's ever been successful. So that's my comment.
Thank you. Any other comments? Trustee Engelkirk?
I mean, I think from the survey, it's overwhelming that we keep it at 4 o'clock. So I think we should just discuss whether we're going to change the meeting time of the July meeting. And as far as the locations, and for me, I'm fine changing the July meeting, and I'm fine leaving the schedule with the 2 lake dates and the rest in the valley. And I'm from the lake, so I guess I carry some weight.
I agree with Trustee Engelkirk.
Just one thing I want to point out on this schedule, just as a note, the May meeting is always the 3rd Tuesday. So that's standard, just if you were looking at dates and thinking it didn't add up for the budget. And the reason why that is in law, there's a window of which you have to have your budget hearing in May.
Thank you. Any other comments? Trustee Burns?
Yeah, I just want to make comment. This really only had one purpose, and that's find out what everybody else wanted. It didn't make any difference to us. So whatever the majority wants, then I'm great with that. I'm fine with that. I do like changing the here though.
Yeah.
I don't like wading through mud.
But you want to leave that option open.
Yeah. So we'll still leave it at Valley, just so that we always have that flexibility. The more you narrow it down, then you're stuck. So leave it at Valley, but with an understanding that when we can, we'll meet here at Douglas High School.
Trustee Dickerson?
And also that will save us some money because we won't be paying for fees out there, right? To use this and that and the other thing in the budget.
We own it.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Because in the budget, it said all kinds of, rent on the freezer, this, that. I went through the whole entire
Oh, yeah.
budget.
No, we own the
And there's
ATC,
money
so
going out to something, so I assume. we
charging all
can,
these years, you just caught. me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so, yeah, I sure did.
Okay, who'd like to make a motion? Trustee Burns?
Microphone.
I'll make a motion that we leave it at 4 p.m. We do to move to this location for meetings instead of.
So if there's a recommendation there below.
I can do that.
Yeah, with the change in the July meeting from July 11th to July 18th, I think is really changed.
Yeah, I got the other one.
Here.
All right. Number 12, board meeting. As part of its annual organization at
A little further down to some bold.
on 14?
No,
13.
The highlighted.
12, that's what I thought.
Right here.
Approval, all right, recommendations, approve board meeting dates and location for the 2020 through 23 calendar year, April 2023 through January 2024, with the exception of the July meeting being July 18th. And the location being here.
Flexible.
Okay.
Do I have a second? Trustee Dickerson. Seconds. Thank you.
For the record, I'm just going to clarify the motion. So the motion is that you're approving the approve board meeting dates and locations for the 2023 calendar year, April 2023 to January 2024, with one change from moving the meeting, July 11th meeting to July 18th. And Trustee Dickerson, you have seconded it? Okay. So we're ready
Public
for
comment?
Yep.
Is there any public comment on this issue? Mark, you can step down. Thank you. Thank you very much. No public comment? We're ready for the motion. Ready for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Raise your hand. Aye. The measures approved unanimously. The motion's approved unanimously. Thank you. And number 14.
Or is everyone doing okay?
Doing good. Let's just. Keep going. If anybody wants it. We're good. We're ready for Mr. Gardner. Number 14. First reading of board policy number 452, pregnancy, childbirth, and related medical conditions.
Thank you,
SGG.
Thank you, President Jansen. This policy that I bring to you tonight is another situation where when we had Pool Pack audit our HR department, this was a policy that we needed to bring forward to become compliant with not only Federal Pregnancy Discrimination Act, but also Nevada Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. And really what is saying that we will comply with this law and provide women who are pregnant or childbirth related medical conditions, provide them the accommodations that they need. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah.
I can make a motion.
Go ahead. This is first reading.
First reading, yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just want to give a correction down here. March 10th with March 20th. Adopted first reading.
So actually, let's just scratch that.
Okay.
Because it will actually be adopted officially in a second.
Okay, so the motion has to be to delete that. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It's okay. I'd like us to approve board policy number 452, pregnancy, childbirth, and related medical conditions as a first reading, along with the date at the bottom that we scratched, the first reading, March 10th, 2020.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, trustee Dickerson. And any public comment? Okay, I guess we're ready to take a vote. All in favor of this board policy 452, say aye.
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 Dickerson. That the resolution, the policy passes unanimously. Mr. Gardner, number 15.
Okay, the same thing. This is for us to come in compliance with federal law related to specific leave. The three leaves here, two of which are federal, two are state laws. The first is military law under, military leave under federal law policy, and the leave related to military leave. The second aspect of this is leave for nursing mothers under federal law. And then last, which is NRS, is leave for parents of children enrolled in schools. And one thing I'd like to point out is we've always complied with not only this policy, but the last policy, but this is just putting it into policy. So we're compliant with the law in that regard. And I would point out that I have it on the bottom that we will want to scratch as
Any comments or questions from the board?
I have a question. I mean, these are just basically you're taking what the policy is and you're writing on this form here and we're adopting it, right?
correct. And I guess I would add that we have a lot of other negotiated pieces around leave that we don't put into board policy. We only put into board policy what is mandated by federal and state law around leave.
Okay. Trustee Burns?
We're getting ahead of her. That has to be changed as well on the date.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He said that, yeah. Trustee Engelkirk?
Okay, I would like to, where am I at here? Approve vote.
Of course, Mr. Trustee
I have a
Magnata.
disability. I can't hear. So could you please grab a microphone and talk into the microphone so I can be part of this group? Thank you.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to approve the first reading of board policy number 454, leave under federal law and Nevada revised statutes as a first reading, where we will scratch the adopted first reading date of March 10th, 2023.
Second.
Thank you. Trustee Kangas made the second. Public comment? No, if there's no public comment, it's time to vote. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Superintendent Lewis, are you going to read number 16?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, before you is we have talked to you about our review of board policies. And I spoke a couple months ago in regards to some policies have been reviewed and staff does not have any recommended changes to the actual policy. But we wanted to make sure that we at least documented that the policy has been reviewed so that, as we talked about, when you see a policy from 1980, it's not the last time that anyone looked at it. And so that we're noting when we're reviewing them. So what is in front of you tonight is several board policies, board policy 209, 301, 304, 305, 314, 316, 330, and 503. All of these, there are no changes whatsoever to the policies themselves. All that we are doing is at the bottom, we are noting that on December 20th, 2022. Oh, yeah. Sorry, and I'll finish that and then I'll come back. So on December 20th, 2022, staff reviewed these policies and all we're asking you to do is in a first reading, and we'll again bring this back just like we do any other policy because we are changing something on it. We'll bring it back for a second reading next month, but we're just asking you to approve the inclusion of that review date. I do want to note that if you hadn't pulled it out in your red folder is the correct date of December 20th, 2022, which is when the review date was.
Any comments or
questions? Yeah.
Any comments or questions from the board? Okay, there's no.
I can
comments
go
or
ahead and make a
questions
recommendation.
from the board. Go ahead, go ahead.
Gilkerson, before you do, as
sir.
part of the motion, will you note that it's a first reading?
Yes, I will. Okay. Did you have a question? Did you want me to wait?
May I say, okay. So, the Douglas County School District will offer appropriate protection and at-risk employees and blah, blah, blah. So this is for, employees, not for students, the HP, all that stuff. Those inoculations here, HIV, all the bloodborne pathogens, any kind of shots, HPV, all that. This is for,
Yes, the
employees
employee
with, like-
protection from bloodborne
Thank you.
is a, yes.
Sure. Would like to approve the first reading on the following board policies that December 20th, 2022 is the date of the last staff review. Board Policy 209, homebound instruction, Board Policy 301, creating a position, Board Policy 304, employment contract, Board Policy 305, transfer of employees, Board Policy 314, staff protection, Board Policy 316, employee protection from bloodborne pathogens, Board Policy 330, class size, and Board Policy 503, assignment within district.
Thank you, trustee Gilkerson. Could I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, trustee Kangas. Hey, is there any public comment on this? If there's no public comment, then we're ready to vote. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The measure passes unanimously. Thank you. Yes.
I just wanted to say, I know we're about to go into closed session. I'm wondering if it's possible we take things out of order and we could do public comment first. And then because we don't have anything after public comment. And that way the people that are still here could go home.
I personally love that idea, but are we going to vote?
No, you don't have to.
Okay.
I would suggest that you take prioritizing agendas, possible items, and then public comment, and then we go into closed session.
Yes,
We have to turn, Sharon, do we turn these back to you? No.
just the folder.
You know what I need is a blue folder. You signed them yet? No, I was going to do it during close. Perfect. Just bring it in.
We're going to do public
We're going to do board future agenda. items.
future agenda items. Okay.
Ask if anybody has any.
Well,
Right?
I do.
Okay, well, ask somebody else first.
I know. Does anybody have any future agenda items?
I had something.
Trustee Magnata?
I thought at the beginning of every meeting, we were gonna review and go over the open meeting law, which is, of course, coming up. That's been a problem. So how come we're not doing that?
I believe on the 14th, we have a training about that.
So I don't have memory that we were going to talk about it at the beginning of every meeting. But we did talk about that as a topic that the board wanted to discuss in the board workshop so that everyone was trained on what you can and cannot do as board members outside of public meetings. So I think we've accomplished that. We'll do that in April 14th at the board workshop. Legal counsel will present on that topic. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, trustee Gilgerson.
Thank you, President Jansen. Yeah, I was wondering if it would be possible we could put on the agenda talking about test scores. And all of this stuff that we've been doing, I don't know that has really helped us to improve our test scores, the things that are really important for our students. Also test scores along with mental health. I know we're having the mental health very appreciative of the parent webinars. But what I would like is maybe from our counselor, social workers, what we have in place in our schools, and what is available, all the things that are available in our community, so that we know for students or for young people. Maybe help them like that put forth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Okay. Second. Trustee Dickerson seconded. Both.
Yep. Yes.
Oh, that's okay. They're all good. Who's next? Well, it says I want to go last. I have a few. Does anybody else have any? Trustee Burns?
Yes.
Microphone.
I'm looking over this, the Douglas County School District Board of Trustees 2023 committee assignments. And I think we need to put this on the agenda to discuss all of these and what they really mean, and for information, detailed information, so we know what they are, each one of us being on the same page. So I'm asking for it to be placed on the agenda for discussion of all these committees.
I second that.
Anybody else?
I just had a comment about that. Not that I don't want it to be on the agenda. That's fine.
Yes, trustee Gilkerson,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Guys, not that I don't want that to be on there, but I'm just not sure that it might not be better suited to be in our training for us instead of for the public. That's all. It was just my comment. It's already been put on, so just a thought.
Does anybody else have any suggestions? Okay. I wanted a presentation by the superintendent and staff on all the staffing levels in the past 3 years, all staff from 2019 till now, just so that we really have a good understanding of how many staff we have, how many vacancies we have.
I'll second that.
Thank you. That would be probably you, Mr. Gardner. You would know. Yeah.
So a little clarification. Do you want total number of staff broken down by like classified, certified, how many vacancies we've had throughout like the last year?
All the staff right now broken down, just like you said, and just the current vacancies, just so that we have an understanding of where we're at. Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Of course. Trustee Burns?
You know, I really support this because I know there's great teachers, and honestly, I don't know what they're teaching. So it helps us to understand. No, I don't mean what they're teaching. I mean, you know, if they're teaching math or teaching English, an English teacher. I just like to know those things, you know, so I can have it in my head of when somebody is mentioned, then I can see where they're at. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think what I would recommend on that, I think what President Jansen's asking is slightly different what you're saying, Trustee Burns. So I would just say, you know, send us a quick email and say, can we get a directory of our staff and what their positions are, who we have in their positions, and we can produce that very quickly.
Yeah, I think she's asking for more. I know that.
Yes,
I'm just.
I think for what
stating-
you're asking is more an information request of us that does not take long for us to put together, and we'd gladly put that together. So.
Thank you, Superintendent Lewis. Anything else? Are we ready for the public comment?
Oh,
That's all I have, because everything else was already on.
Okay.
We're ready for public comment. Would anybody in the audience like to come up and speak?
It's the Ted Lasso in me that I want to end on a good note. My name is Karen Lamb. Specifically, I teach here at Douglas High. I am the president of the union, but more importantly, I am an English teacher. I teach yearbook, leadership, and freshman seminar. I would like to, along with my co-teacher, invite all of you. I have invited all of you into my classroom several times, and I'm very appreciative of those of you who have taken the moment. I'd specifically like to invite everyone, including the new board. I did email everyone from the previous board last semester about coming to visit and speak with my leadership students. I think they're a pretty phenomenal group of our student leaders here on campus. And I think as much as I want you to talk to teachers, because I'm really proud of the teaching staff here in Douglas County, I also am very proud of our students. And so I think it would behoove you to come and speak to them and talk about any of your experiences individually that would benefit them as young people, but also so they can get to know you and you can get to know their experiences. So that's my invitation.
Thank you very much. I can't wait to go. Any other public comment? Any, Mr. Enter? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session.
I'd like to make a motion, the board will recess to closed session in order to discuss matters with its management representatives pursuant to NRS 288.220. Parentheses 4.
I have a second.
Second.
Got the seconds over.
Second,
Soon we'll have a whole minute.
trustee Dickerson.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. A gavel?
Oh, we got to vote.
Oh, we haven't, I don't remember doing this. Okay, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody, for coming and staying till the end.